So a couple weeks ago, Rhett McLaughlin and Alex O'Connor had this conversation about advice that they would give to Christians, and it predictably spurred like an avalanche of responses online. I was involved in one of those responses with Dr. Kip Davis, and then I was kind of clipped into another one with in one of Apologia's videos. So lots of fantastic responses, and I haven't really said anything about it yet, and I was trying to figure out if I wanted to say anything about it. But in this video, I kind of want to cobble together a couple reflections on this. But in the first place, I'm going to clip a few of the responses to the I don't know, like the responses. I'll clip a few of these and show you some of the things I was listening to and what I'm hearing as I'm listening to these people respond. And of course, this is with thanks to Apologia, who clipped all this and did all this work for me. So I'm linking to his video below, which you should absolutely watch. And without further ado, here are some responses to Rhett and Alex.
Yeah, but he's rejected the Christian perspective. So why does he care about this? Why does he care that Christians are not obeying the words of Jesus when he has rejected the words of Jesus?
I view it from the perspective that he is on the sideline. He has taken his ball and he has went home, but he's also wanting to coach from the sideline and saying, Christians you can't be doing that when you're not in the house anymore, man.
It's just church hurt.
Yeah.
He's just been hurt by the church.
Yeah.
And he is naming all the things, the reasons why he left the church.
Yes.
He's naming all the reasons, everything that's wrong with the church.
Calvin, or do you want to follow the exegesis of an apostate YouTuber? You decide.
We should have compassion and tenderness towards a doubter. Really, we should be a lot more forceful with people who are trying to get other people to doubt.
So it's an apostate Christian saying, stop opposing my agenda, because if you believed your own principles, you wouldn't be opposing me, you would be joining me.
There's a reason that lost people, especially people who deconvert from Christianity, there's a spiritual reason they become very, very passionate about keeping Christians away from politics.
So I had a couple reflections as I was thinking this through. And I find this, like, I don't know about you, but as somebody who's left, who left evangelicalism and deconstructed, and it's similar to the way that Rhett did, it just like, you just want to scream when you hear these people responding. And it's not that they don't have the right to respond, but I just want to talk through a few of the things that I'm thinking about as I hear this, and just like why it's so broken. And the first thing I wanted to point to is that what you have in the way that these people respond to Rhett is you have a movement that can't be criticized. Like, you're trying to construct a movement that you can never criticize, because if you leave, you are never really saved. If you stay and criticize, you're going to be divisive. And if you leave and criticize, it's like, why do you even care anymore? Now, this is really ironic for a group of people, especially these Christian apologetics channels, who will regularly feature people who left Islam or Mormonism or former JWs or whatever. They love these stories about people leaving other religions, and they seem to not be aware that there are tens of thousands of people leaving evangelicalism on a regular basis. And all of a sudden, we're not allowed to talk about. Like, how much abuse can you hide in a system where nobody's allowed to talk about anything when they leave? And I think about this as like almost like an abusive relationship or something. I hope that's an okay comparison to make. I'm not trying to minimize relationship abuse, but like, genuinely, people leaving evangelicalism are not hurt because they're not just like hurt because like they had their feelings hurt. In many cases, they're hurt because this is a terrible, terrible system. And what happens when you leave and you try to speak out about it, and all of a sudden you just get this avalanche of, men like gaslighting and undermining and arguing, and it's so frustrating. And what we're saying, when I think about like myself as somebody who deconstructed, and the people in my comments, the people I talk to about it, it's like there are tens of thousands of people with the same story. There are tens of thousands of us. Go on any social media platform and look up the hashtags Evangelical or deconstruction. There are tens of thousands of us saying the same story. And it's from like 10 different angles. There are people talking about purity culture on one hand and like Christian gender expectations. On the other hand, there's like the Christian ideas, Christian nationalism. Like, there's so many different angles that this movement that I was raised in, the evangelical movement, which has a lot of different moving parts, but in many of its manifestations is somewhat homogenous. There are so many different angles that this is being criticized by people who left. It's a pattern that they refuse to listen to the people who left, because by silencing them, they can pretend that their movement is not doing harm in like 20 different directions. But it's hurting people. Like, it's really, really hurting people on a regular basis. Systemically, it's hurting people, and you still won't listen. And I think one of the bizarre things, because I engage with apologists a lot on this channel too, and one of the bizarre things about how Christian apologists react to deconstructors is they act like it's ideas that need to be challenged. Like, they act like we're looking for a debate. Like, somebody like Red is looking to be like, let's duke it out for the future of Christianity. Like, we're just trying to tell our story. We're just trying to tell you what was broken, and we're trying to tell you about the system that hurt us. And the thing that just boggles the mind is all that apologists here is like, we're going to show you that we're smart too, and we're going to have this conversation about who's smart. You don't take us seriously as intellectuals. Like, I don't give a shit if you think you're an intellectual, if you're a Christian apologist. I don't give a shit how smart you are. I take on Christian apologetics because at the undergirding of Christian apologetics is this system that hurts people. These are not just ideas that are, hypothetical, metaphysical ideas we can debate and see which one has more merit. Your ideas have already been weighed in the balance and found wanting, because thousands of us have lived in a system, and we've lived with the effects that your ideas produced, and we know the damage and the harm that it does. So these ideas are not just like things that we need to have like there's some kind of intellectual debate here. These are people who have been hurt by the ideas saying your ideas hurt me. And your response is, let me double down and like argue the ideas better, and you need to take my ideas more seriously. One of the reasons I spend so much time trying to fight and debunk Christian apologetics is because it's not just that it's misinformation. It is. It's not just like it's the anti-vaxxers of my field. They are, in many cases, like the equivalent of anti-vaxxers in the field of biblical studies. They're the people who won't listen to biblical scholars and come up with their own alternative knowledge sphere. But it's not just about that. It's the fact that this alternative knowledge sphere props up this entire system in which these types of angry, controlling men get to hurt people. And frankly, get to hurt kids, because it's often kids. Many of us are converted to this as children. We're born in this. We're raised in this, protected, shielded from the outside world. We often don't get a say about belonging to evangelicalism. You're just in it. But the thing that apologists need to reckon with is that bad ideas have created this system. If you look at the bad idea of biblical inerrancy that was created in the late 19th, early 20th century, it's not just an idea. It's an idea that things flow from. And we were raised with rapture culture, for example, that really did a number on a lot of us kids. And rapture culture flowed out of the idea of biblical inerrancy. So when you fight for the idea of biblical inerrancy, which is blatantly false, you are fighting for, and I agree, the manifestations of these particular ideas change, but the ideas themselves have consequences. When you fight for the idea of substitutionary atonement, for example, you're not just saying, oh, it's nice that Jesus saved people. That manifests in you telling kids they're wicked sinners and going to hell. It manifests in Christian parents, quite frankly, bullying and even sometimes abusing their kids because they see sin nature as something that's inherent to who their kids are. And when their kids make a mistake, it's not just like, oh, Jimmy made a mistake, or oh, Jimmy wanted to do his own thing today. It's like, no, Jimmy's a sinner and that needs to be beaten out of him. These are the consequences of your ideas. Take these ideas to their logical extremes, and you get this culture that tens of thousands of us are now fleeing and tens of thousands of us are speaking out about. Substitutionary atonement also meant telling kids they were going to hell and creating this constant anxiety about salvation that a lot of Christian kids understand because we didn't have these radical conversion experiences. And a lot of us spent our teenage years being terrified of dying and going to hell, or thinking we were going to be martyred for our faith because of this liberal culture that's out to get us, apparently. Like, all of these ideas have consequences. And I don't make any apologist, I don't make any one preacher responsible for the bad manifestations of this individual system. But if you're never willing to critique the system, if you're never willing to listen to the people who left and say, how could we do better? And then instead just say, you have no business ever talking to us if we left, then you are perpetuating that system that controls and silences and abuses people. I'm not here to destroy Christianity. I think Christianity has a beautiful future. I even think evangelicalism could have a beautiful future. I think there's a lot of really terrible things in that system that have manifested and hurt people, but I also think there are really beautiful parts of it. And I'm optimistic that we will see in our lifetime the growth of a healthy, vibrant type of evangelical faith that's really nurturing to people. And you know what? I know on the individual level it is. I know on the individual level, there are millions of evangelical Christians who are wonderful people for whom their faith is the impetus for them to do good things and not to hurt people. Okay, like that's really obvious. But if you want to build the future of the evangelical movement, or indeed of Christianity as a whole, to be the best version of itself that it can be, to be the most life-giving, affirming Christian movement, you need to listen to the people who have left. Red is still willing to be in this conversation isn't a sign that he's an asshole. It's a sign that he cares. We're here, and many of us are actually still in the movement. Many of us are still fighting for the future of the Christian movement. And even those who have left to wherever, atheism or wherever, I don't see those as enemies either. I see those people as part of this same conversation we're having about what it means to be human and what it means even for me to live a Christian life. So if people tell you stories, if people have a deconstruction hashtag, if somebody gives advice for the future of Christianity, you don't need to try to argue with them. You don't need to try to prove why you're okay. You don't need to try to silence them. You don't need to gaslight them. All you need to do is to listen. That's all you need to do. And as much as you're able to, in your own little way, try to create something better for the next generation. That's certainly what I hope to be the case. I think that's probably true for most of us who have landed in this deconstruction journey, that we want something better. And if you listen, maybe we could build that. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.